That's the expert. Nick is here from Ottawa Physiotherapy and Sport Clinic. Again, so all kinds of questions today. We're dealing specifically with running shoes, running form, all that sort of thing. But if you have other questions when it comes to, soreness and, getting out there and being active and that sort of thing that physiotherapists deal with, like Nick, feel free to ask them. Matter of fact, Nick, I believe we have a question along those lines.
Yep.
From Sonia this morning. Sonia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How about you guys?
Very good.
Thanks.
Where are you calling from today, Sonia?
I'm calling from Ottawa, Gloucester.
Nice. Okay, what's your question?
I was wondering, every time I work out or I do physical activity or just simply go for walks or swim around the pool, I've always having recurring shoulder aches, shoulder blade stiffness, and of course it runs through the neck.
Right.
Yep.
And I have a foam roller that I do try to sit on or sleep on to relieve all of those pressure points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But they're always coming back, and I was wondering, is it because of my posture or when I'm doing activities that I'm doing something wrong to put the stress on the shoulder blades, on the shoulders, and on the neck?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a problem we actually see a lot of in the clinic. It's hard to give you obviously a clear-cut answer because I haven't seen you in person. But typically, what will happen with that, especially when the pain starts kind of in that shoulder blade neck area. For example, if you lose your typical Ottawa job, which is sitting at a computer all day long and doing this, there tends to be some segments in the neck, Sonia, that actually start to move more than they should, especially where the neck sort of meets the upper back. All right. So, especially if you're telling me that it's occurring with sort of swimming, walking, all kinds of activities that put some level of shear on the neck. You might have what's called a hypermobile segment in the neck. So what that means basically is you have a little joint in your neck that's moving a little bit too much, and then it's causing all these referred pains, if you will, sort of going down into the shoulder, in the trap, into the shoulder blade area.
Yeah.
So the foam roller is definitely a good way to start in terms of decreasing some of those tender points. But you probably want to get somebody to look in terms of your overall posture, work on some postural exercises, postural retraining, and even depending on your job, maybe ergonomic assessment in the workplace would be a bad idea.
Right, and you may need some a special chair or something a little more.
Yeah, even some ergonomic aids might be
and they work.
Yeah, because just because the pain is there when you're doing your activity, the precursor to the pain might actually be something you're doing in everyday life.
And it sounds like, Nick, from what Sonia was saying, it's more than just your average soreness from being physical.
Most definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay, we're talking more about running shoes. You think gone are the days of the bulky, running shoe that we see here? I mean, you can still get a lot of them in this kind of shape, but they're so much lighter and different materials, right?
And what you have to understand is that, the market is sales driven, right? I mean, as much as I would love to think that the big companies are there to make you, feel better and give you a big hug at the end of the day, that's not really what they're after.
I mean, how many times you bought a running shoe because you like the way they look, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not how they fit or
they're pretty good, and they spend a lot of $1 million on marketing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this shoe is for everybody. That would be a big misconception, right? So, but for most people, if you're in pain and you're looking to improve your performance, I would definitely get people to lean more towards the minimalist type of approach or racing flat.
And that is a racing flat.
So these are called racing flats. This one here is kind of an extreme flat, if you will. So what we look for when we call something a racing flat is the differential between your heel to your toe.
Right.
So this would be what's called a zero drop. Okay.
Right. It's level. It's basically level.
Basically level. So basically, it's like walking barefoot.
Right.
Okay? Anything with anywhere from a 6 millimeter drop from your heel to your toe would still be considered a racing flat.
What's the difference? We got to take another commercial break. But what's the difference between a running flat and this?
Okay, so a running flat can have, like I said, basically between 6 millimeter drop to 0.
Yeah.
Whereas minimalist is basically there's nothing there. It's just basically an outsole, so you don't cut yourself on any glass or any rock surfaces.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, and this basically still has a little bit of more of a sole, if you will. Just because if you're doing a longer distance or if you're running on the sidewalk, that's fine. But if you get into trail running, rocks can be a little bit annoying on these guys versus a little bit more padding for your foot.
Yeah,
on these guys
because you're going to feel just about everything on the road with that. Only it just won't go through your skin.
I can let you know from experience.
Is that right? Okay, more coming up. As a matter of fact, we'll talk more about running shoes and running form and that sort of thing. But if you have questions when it comes to physiotherapy, if you've got problems with your knees or whatever, Nick's obviously well-versed to answer those questions. So get him in here at 613-789-6559, extension 2803. Our last segment with Ottawa Physiotherapy and Sport Clinic coming up on Ask the Expert.